Hey everybody, it's Kyle here and welcome to not a level design tutorial. Today is going to be an environment texturing tutorial, or at least part one of an environment texturing series. Now I'm not going to show you guys how to create environment textures because there are plenty of tutorials out there. Today's tutorial, is all about using tiling textures and how you can use them to your advantage. Now, this was actually a request sent in by the One Lich Emperor from a couple months back. I was looking through some older comments, and this one actually came up. And the question is actually a lot more broad than I'm going to be showing you in this video today, but I think we should take it one step at a time. So these two floor pieces are 2.4 meters. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these pieces are 2.4 meters. And we want to, let me just get rid of, oh, whoops, sorry. Delete that by accident. I'll just keep that there. These pieces are all the same, but you can see here with these floorboards that one sort of has this sort of large texture on it. And this one here has sort of got a smaller sort of tiling texture to it. And I mean, how do you get to that point, right? Well, let's apply a UV modifier, an unwrap modifier onto this first bigger sort of texture here. We go to unwrap UVW, open up the UV editor. Now, if you're not using Max, I'm using Max 2013. If you're using something like Blender or Maya, you should be able to do the same things. I mean, Maya is Autodesk. Blender, you might need to do a little digging around to get this sort of thing down, but I'm pretty sure they would have something to support what I'm about to show you guys. So here we can see that this vert is at 1, 1, and this one is at origin, 0, 0. This checker pattern here denotes 0 to 1 UV space, right? So it's very important. This 0 to 1 space is important for unique objects. Like, what's one unique object? Well, person would be very unique, right? They would have all these different sort of UV islands. But good thing for environments is that you don't need to follow the 0 to 1 space rule, right? Well, at least for most things like walls and floors and dirt and rocks and things like that. You don't need to follow UV space, 0 to 1 UV space, sorry. And we can prove that, oh, whoops, sorry, wrong piece of geometry. We can prove that by going to this piece of geometry, going to the unwrap modifier and opening the UV editor. Now I'll drag that over here so we can still see the actual geometry. I'm going to shrink the window a bit. I'm going to zoom out. You can already tell that I'm not actually using 0 to 1 space. I'm actually well outside of 0 to 1 space. This vert over here is at 3. This vert is not 0, 0. That has to be there for me. This is at 0, 2, and that is at 3, 2. Now, how does it still tile if I go to the drop-down menu and select that, right? If I go to Options, Preferences, or Control O, so Control O, I'll drag this window over here. The two things that you need to know when using the tiling texture sort of technique is to tiles and tile bitmap. So I'll set that to 0 for now. I'll check tile bitmap, and nothing happens because, well, when it's 0 tiles, you're actually only using 0 to 1 space. But if I click that and increase it to 1, we can see that, well, it's pretty obvious now, isn't it? We've got already 1 extra tile. I'll increase that again to 2. And again, we got another sort of extra tile there going, right? This is at 2 tiles. And if I click OK, it'll keep. Remember, if you're using Max and you want to go Preferences, if I say I want to have 3 tiles instead, and I just close that, it won't apply. You need to click OK. So this pretty much explains it, right? When the secret is, right, whether or not you're using a unique unwrap or a tiling texture, in the background, the texture actually tiles infinitely. So if I go Control O again, I can set the tiles to like 50 or 100, right? I can go to 10, it'll tile. I can go to 50, it'll tile. It'll tile 50 times, and it won't look that great. Actually, from this distance, that looks alright. That looks like metal, but we don't need that. We actually only need that much space. And the good thing is, if you want to get like a different look out of a tiling texture that you have, you can do that. You can sort of stretch out the UVs to whatever shape you want. And what's even better is that you can use it. It doesn't have to be some sort of square piece of geometry. You can have like a round piece of geometry, like what's a good example? We can have like a chair or something, right? A bar stool that has a round top generally, a round seat, and you can still use a wood texture. Well, you probably won't want to use something like this, but you can use a tiling texture to your advantage by sort of rearranging the UVs within outside of the UV space, which is really useful. Now, another added advantage of using tiling textures is that if I open up my material editor again, I can still go bop, bop, and they'll have tiling textures applied to them. There's almost no effect. Obviously, if this was like a first-person game, it would obviously look a lot more. It would look a lot better if I was sort of using this sort of thing, going for it, having the sort of board sort of come up like that. Obviously, this sort of effect you can't get with a what's it called again? A normal map. You might be able to get it with a parallax map if you know what you're doing, but I think the easiest way to get this sort of thing, especially if you're dealing with just hand-painted textures just like this, it would be a lot easier to get this sort of look going. Alright, now there's some mild distortion going on where the pieces meet, like there and there. That's because I had to clean up the texture, clean up the geometry, and that's sort of what's happened. But that's alright. It's really up to you, the designer, to sort of fix that yourself, and I really should have done that as well. Doesn't matter. Now, as powerful as tiling textures are, they do have their own limitations. Let me show you one very obvious limitation. Okay, I've just duplicated that piece. I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees. I'm going to drag that across. Can't do something like that. Right? It's very obvious that there's a tile break. So you can't rotate pieces, but the good thing is you can actually have like a piece that goes around a corner and you can sort of distort the edges, sorry, not the edges, you can distort the UVs in a way that makes sense, so you can sort of have them sort of join up at a 45-degree angle. Very useful. So while there are a few drawbacks, another drawback is if you're going to go ahead and create unique geometry, you do need to create the base piece first and then make sure that that looks the way you want it to look, and then create your uniques. I'm pretty sure there's a way around that, but I haven't found it yet. But if I do, I'll tell you guys. So you have to go create the base first, then create your uniques, right? And I mean, that doesn't really count against it, really. I mean, you can mix and match it with other pieces and it'll still look right. It'll still be like proper. It makes sense. So while the drawbacks are kind of serious and sort of can be a hassle to get around, it really, at the end of the day, it doesn't affect it that much, which is a good thing. Now, in the next video is going to be about, I'll actually use multiple tiling textures like this stone brick wall mixed with a wood texture mixed with these floorboards to texture up an entire building. So if you're looking forward to something like that, yes, that will be the next video. Now, last thing, we'll quickly go over everything again. Tiling textures are going to be your best friend in environment art. I think that the quicker you master using tiling textures, the faster your workflow will be when creating levels, or at least environment art, because really, while there are some serious drawbacks, the benefits of using tiling textures, in my opinion, far outweigh the drawbacks by a mile. So I hope you learned something in this video, and the next video, again, like I said, is going to be about using multiple tiling textures to texture up an entire building. So hold out for that. But until next time, hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.